Why was I diagnosed? That's what I wanted to know. And you probably do too. I mean, I thought I was doing everything right. And I even made a list of all the things that I thought I was doing correctly when I was diagnosed at the age of 43. I was plant-based for 9 years already. I had a strong spiritual practice. I did yoga. I had no financial pressure. I lived in a pristine environment, so no environmental toxins. I had a healthy diet. Not all plant-based is healthy diet. I took a boatload of supplements and drank some things that made me gag every day, but I knew they were healthy for me. Um, Not a big drinker, and yet there I was at 43, diagnosed. I was like, what in the world? And so you have these thoughts, and I have a feeling that everybody has the thought of, why me? Why now? Why is this happening? And you start kind of inventorying everything in your life to figure out where this came from. And I had been on a health and wellness path for more than 2 decades at that point. I started studying the mind-body connection even before that, starting with psychology and then health and nutrition, and melding them together into how the mind influences the body, and and on a spiritual path as well. So this was my major passion for now almost 50 years. So I was well versed. I was lucky enough, since I lived in this little fishing village in Mexico, I was lucky enough to have a pretty extensive library that when I came home from my doctor's appointment, I could just go to my library and grab books and see, okay, what am I going to do about this? This was before the age of the internet, at least for us. We didn't have landlines here, so houses did not have internet, even though that was still pretty much the early days of computers, but we didn't have that. So you still needed books to go to. And the thing is, since then, I have connected so many dots. There's been so many aha moments, because not only have I spent the last 24 years like even more intensely studying, but at the same time, science has grown by leaps and bounds with all the new information that they're able to access and things they've figured out that they didn't know back then. So there are a lot of things that have been connected. And yes, I was aware of the mind-body connection, but I think there was something that until that aha moment, I hadn't connected. And that was how badly I wanted out of my job. I had a job that paid me very well, so I had no financial pressure. But I was no longer happy there. There were some things going on that were stressing me out. And yet when I told people that I wanted to leave, they were like, you can't. Women do not get promoted to this job, and you can't walk away from it, or God knows when they will ever have another woman in this position. So I felt that obligation. And then my husband got out his calculator and he's like, are you out of your mind? And he's like, okay, this much longer. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do that much longer. I can't do that. But another feeling like, okay, he's right. The money's really good. I should keep doing this at least this much more time, and then we'll look at something else. And so I think subconsciously that played into the diagnosis for me, is that there was something that I wanted out of, that I didn't feel empowered to just stand up and do on my own. So I found a workaround. And no, it's not the most easiest, healthiest workaround for a person to choose. And so we don't choose these kind of things consciously, but we do choose them subconsciously. And so that was one thing for me when I realized that. And the way I realized it was when the very next morning I said, you know what, I'm quitting my job. I'm quitting my job. This is my life on the line. And I think that qualifies as important enough that I'm just going, done. And so when I went in and I said, sorry, this is the situation, I'm quitting. And they're like, no, 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 don't quit. Take as much time as you want. You're just in shock. This is all new. Just take all the time you need and your job will be here. And I'm like, no, seriously, I am very clear on this. I'm not coming back. And I felt such a huge relief. And then there were also other things on the health side, dots that were connected almost immediately. And one of them was artificial sweeteners, that it was at that time just coming to light with alternative healthcare practitioners, where they were finding out from like cans of Diet Coke that were out in the sun under big tarps in the Gulf War in the early 90s, and that it was making the troops sick. And so they started looking at artificial sweeteners and the connection to formaldehyde. That was one of the early ones, was that the heat was turning the artificial sweeteners into formaldehyde. And whether, that was substantiated at the time or not, but just the potential of that was enough for me to say, absolutely not, I am not doing this anymore. So I went cold turkey. Well, now we know, in fact, just this last week, the World Health Organization is releasing a mandate, or whatever they do, classifying artificial sweeteners as a carcinogen. So it's like, about time. But I'm sure there's still a lot of people using artificial sweeteners, drinking diet sodas, drinking soda at all. Stop that. That's probably the first thing you should stop. That don't know that aren't aware of that health and reading about health is not their main pastime, and so they're unaware. And why would they be aware if that's not one of their passions? So it's things like that you can connect the dots that are so easy to stop doing. Stop saying yes to things you want to say no to. Stop eating and drinking things that are contributing to preventing you from getting over your diagnosis, are feeding your cancer, whatever type of cancer you have. Different cancers are fed by different things. But those are just a couple examples that even though I was doing all these other things correct, there was some things that now looking back, or even immediately looking back on those two, that were things that contributed that before the diagnosis I would have been completely unaware of. So for the last 24 years, I've doubled my efforts. And this all started in my early 20s, really, for multiple reasons, but one of the biggest being the fact that my mother has the worst diet of any human I ever knew. And I thought, one of these days, something's going to happen, and I better be ready. Because as the oldest, it would be my job to fix it, because that's what the oldest child does. They fix things. And so I thought I was doing this all for her. And the joke was on me, because I was the first one in my family to be diagnosed. Since then, 4 out of 5 of us have been diagnosed with different types of cancer. So I know it's invasive in more families than not. This is not an unusual diagnosis anymore, sadly. But I want you to know that the emotional side and the physical side, there are so many choices that you can make that will shift things for you starting today, starting now, things that are in your control. As soon as you're aware of them, that will make a huge difference in how your wellness journey goes from here forward, whatever type of treatments you choose. So if you make your own list of everything you thought you were doing right and how did this happen, you're welcome to send it to me. I would be happy to go over it and go, oh, what about this? And maybe point out a couple things that you didn't know, a couple things you could look into. So wherever you're seeing this, you can direct message me. If you'd like to be in email contact with me, you can go, I have a gift of plant-based recipes, healthy breakfast, lunch, and dinner that are all done in less than 10 minutes. The drink, no drinking at this point. But that's all in a document for you. If you go to happyhealthyageless.com/gift, and that will connect you to me by email so that we can communicate. And I am here to help you with whatever it is you need. So if there's a specific question you have, something you'd like to see me do a video on, let's connect, and I'm happy to do that for you. I want to share all the things that I've learned to make this journey as quick and easy for you as possible. Until next time, this is Lynn Pierce saying bye for now. Remember, be ageless.